Elvis wanted her to have everything.
Because he didn't really know. He too grew up very, very poor.
Yeah, Poe.
And it's exactly what you said the other day. Poe, right. Poe.
Government officials say a lot of things, but sometimes we just don't quite believe them.
And they have already ceded control to the global banking industry.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 secrets people think the U.S. government is hiding.
This despite serious concerns from privacy advocates that say the law allows the government to snoop on emails and other digital communications without getting a warrant.
For this list, we're looking at secrets that the government would have obvious reasons to keep quiet, whether due to political gain or fear of negative publicity. However, we're solely focusing on secrets the full extents of which have not been confirmed, so you won't find the Edward Snowden leak on our list.
Everything, I worked for, everything that I knew has already been revealed. It's in the hands of journalists.
If you're interested in conspiracy theories, be sure to check out our lists of the top 10 conspiracy theories of all time and another top 10 conspiracy theories of all time. Number 10, vaccines are dangerous.
See, the thing about doctors is they didn't learn about the human body from their friend's Facebook page. They went to medical school where they studied all sorts of amazing things, like how to magically prevent children from contracting horrible diseases by giving them a little shot. You know those little shots of Botox? Which is botulism, by the way.
Are vaccines causing more harm than good? That's what some people would have you believe. The anti-vaccine movement has been around for decades, but didn't really become prominent until the 1990s, when an article claimed there was a link between autism and the combined measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine.
While ASD has been found to have some strong genetic components to it, there also seem to be environmental factors at work as well. And that's really the root of this controversy. We simply don't know precisely what causes autism.
While this study has since been widely discredited, it has resulted in parents choosing not to vaccinate their children, which in turn has caused an increase in diseases like the measles. Conspiracy theorists would have you believe that government officials are behind this vaccine poisoning to support the lucrative pharmaceutical industry or to control the population. This seems highly unlikely.
They're controlling our minds with flu shots. I knew it. Well, kids, now aren't you glad we don't believe in inoculations?
Yay!
Number 9. AIDS was engineered to reduce certain populations.
Been trying to tell me I got some kind of HIV virus shit. Like I got AIDS.
Sticking with the topic of diseases, this well-known theory claims that the government, and specifically the CIA, created HIV to reduce the populations of gay men and African Americans.
This is a major historical event that is going to be studied for 100 years. How the United States gave AIDS to the world.
This theory stems from the fact that at its beginning, the virus appeared to affect these specific groups more so than others.
I'm talking about spreading hate and ignorance. And I'm just the rat for the job. Once we let people know the kid has AIDS, we can panic the whole town.
While African Americans and homosexual men have been the victims of prejudice and injustice for many years, it's hard to believe that the government would create a deadly disease to eliminate these groups, regardless of the era. However, it wouldn't be the first unconscionable thing the government's done, so who knows?
Can I at least get a raise on the minimum wage? And I know the government administers AIDS, so I guess we just pray like the ministers say.
Number 8. Anyone could be a secret government informant.
Number 1, we have asked James Clapper, who's the Director of National Intelligence, are you using this to spy on innocent American citizens? He literally will not give us an answer.
You may be a secret informant without even knowing it. Seriously. In 2008, Congress passed the FISA Amendments Act, which gave the government the authority to surveil Americans' international communications.
I believe that Congress and the public does not have an adequate understanding of the effect that this law has had and could have on the privacy of law-abiding American citizens.
The Freedom of Information Act required the government to release FISA documents, but they withheld the identities of electronic communication service providers that provided information, stating that these businesses would be harmed if their customers knew they were giving information to the FBI. So essentially, your cell phone provider could be allowing the FBI to surveil your activity, and you will never even know about it.
We gave them immunity to do that, to capture all of our phone calls, capture all of our emails, all the places that we go on the internet.
Number 7. Banks specifically Goldman Sachs, control the government.
History has taught world leaders that major economic crises like the Great Depression go on for years.
The government released reports outlining what caused the financial crisis of 2007-2008. And as most of us already know, things like faulty regulations, toxic mortgages, and a basic failure of the system were primarily to blame. However, were those in charge of such predatory practices prosecuted and punished for their crimes? Not in the United States. White-collar criminals in Iceland, for example, were sent to jail for their roles in the economic crisis.
On your CV, the title of this report has been changed from Financial Stability in Iceland to Financial Instability in Iceland.
Oh, well, I don't know. Whatever it is the thing. If it's a typo, there's a typo.
But in the U.S., not only were these financial figures not held accountable, they were given jobs within the government itself.
We're going to keep growing, okay? And obviously, I'll say it, if you're growing, you're not in recession, right? I mean, we all know that.
This causes many conspiracy theorists to suspect that the government is controlled by banks, and specifically Goldman Sachs.
Governments don't rule the world. Goldman Sachs rules the world.
Number 6, the U.S. government distributed crack cocaine themselves.
And some of the money they were making was going to support an army that the men who ran the cocaine ring worked for, called the FDN. This was an army that the CIA started in 1981 and supported.
Better known to us, most of us who remember news, the Contras.
The government has been called a lot of things: murderers, racists, and now drug dealers. In the late 1990s, Gary Webb, a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter for the San Jose Mercury News, wrote a series of articles that linked CIA agents in Central America to drug rings in Los Angeles.
It was about a cocaine ring that operated along the west coast of the United States throughout most of the 80s. And they were funneling, they were selling cocaine in South Central, they were also selling it in Oakland, they were selling it in San Francisco, they were selling it in San Jose.
Webb claimed that the government protected its Nicaraguan allies and allowed them to sell cocaine to black residents in South Central LA. Why would they do this? Allegedly, so the CIA-backed terrorist rebel group the Contras could receive funding, and so the government could carry out their plot to destroy inner-city black America.
The CIA hired people to commit illegal acts, to wit, smuggling guns illegally to Nicaragua. That goes unchallenged, right?
Number 5, chemtrails are dangerous. Many conspiracy theorists suggest that the government is poisoning us somehow, whether to keep us docile and controllable, or to support pharmaceutical companies.
I don't see how anybody who's got their eyes open and their mind open can come to any other conclusion but that somebody is spending a lot of money and effort to spray the planet.
Could they be using airplanes to do it? Some people believe that the traces left in the sky by planes are not simply condensation trails, but actually chemical agents, which are distributed to control the population.
So that was the first time for me that I made any connection between heavy metals and human health. And then a few years ago, I learned that there was an unnatural amount of aluminum in the soil.
This claim has been widely dismissed by scientists around the world, who have repeatedly stated that there is nothing irregular about these trails. Still, the theory has plenty of prominent supporters, including Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan.
Remember when the sky used to be blue, it was just blue? And then there was this toxic death smoke.
Number 4, the moon landing was faked.
Wow, Neil Armstrong. Hey, wait a minute. You're supposed to be on the moon. I just saw it on TV.
Oh, there's a tape delay and with all solar winds.
Nearly half a century later, and people still don't believe that we actually sent people to the moon.
How about the whole man walking on the moon thing, you know? you can see the strings, people.
On July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 crew members Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first people to walk on the moon. This effectively ended the space race, a competition between the Soviet Union and the United States.
The Russians, who were in a race with the Americans to be the first to set foot on the moon, allegedly tracked the missions in horror and disappointment.
Of course, many people believe that the landing was staged to ensure that the US got the upper hand on their Cold War rivals. Others believe that it was simply used as a distraction from the disastrous Vietnam War.
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't.
calling the kettle black if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Number 3. Who killed JFK and why?
Here we go, the greatest fairy tale ever told. It's got everything. The Prince of Camelot, rubies, and magic bullets.
In Dallas, Texas, on November 22, 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated American President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. While the Warren Commission claimed that Oswald acted alone, many people believe that the president was murdered for a far bigger reason. While there are dozens of theories regarding the assassination, with blame being placed on the Soviets, the Cubans, and even the Mafia, one theory suggests that Kennedy's vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, may have been involved. Johnson has been accused of disliking the Kennedys and was worried that he may be dropped from the Kennedy ticket in 1964. More importantly, Kennedy conspiracy theorists think the government is aware of what happened and have consistently covered it up.
It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma. The f***ing shooters don't even know. Don't you get it? Man!
Number 2. The whole story behind 9/11.
Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago.
When the Twin Towers were attacked on September 11, 2001, many people immediately believed that this was something more than an act of terrorism. Similar to the attack on Pearl Harbor, some claim that the U.S. government had ample warning about the attacks, but chose to ignore them so they would have a motive for initiating a war in the Middle East.
I'm a war president. I make decisions here in the Oval Office in foreign policy matters with war on my mind.
Others believe that the towers collapsed as a result of a controlled demolition, which, once again, the Bush administration could use to support invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq.
But I didn't need to understand physics to find it pretty strange that the whole building would crash through itself. I've played with Legos.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today.
We have the military telling us they're training for this, and so they're gearing up to go after gun owners and veterans and local police officers, you name it.
Men were molecularly attached to the ship, bonded with the ship as it was teleported. Men were driven insane, men caught fire, men went invisible. I mean, it is terrible, horrific things that happened to these crew members.
Nazi scientists, some of them tied to war crimes, including horrific concentration camp experiments, brought to the U.S. in a secret program to advance American security interests during the Cold War.
Years ago, I worked for the Central Intelligence Agency on the MKULTRA program. Are you familiar with it?
It was mind control, Manchurian candidate kind of stuff.
Number 1. Aliens exist. Whether it's Area 51 or the Roswell crash, we seem to have an obsession with alien conspiracy theories. In 1947, a United States Air Force surveillance balloon crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. But some people would have you believe that it was actually an alien spacecraft.
When the Roswell thing came up, I knew we'd get, gazillions of letters. So I had all the Roswell papers reviewed, everything.
If you saw that there were aliens there, would you tell us?
Yeah.
You would.
If it was a spacecraft, it was likely moved to Nevada's Area 51, where theorists claim that the U.S. government examines alien technology and houses alien life forms. Although documents have revealed that Area 51 was actually used as a testing location for spy planes, people still believe that this is all just a cover-up for the existence of extraterrestrial life.
So this is the boundary of Area 51. We've got security guards watching us from the hilltop. Warning signs telling us not to go any further. There are orange posts that mark the boundary itself. No fences, no gates, and cameras watching us from the hilltops.
Do you agree with our list? What secrets do you think the government is hiding? For more exciting top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Hey, remember that time you got polio? No, you don't, because your parents got you vaccinated.